Aaron, I want to start with this piece, and I think it's perfect timing that we actually recorded the podcast today versus yesterday. I'm very bad with opening emails. My open rate's probably at 1%, but I just so happened to open your email yesterday from your email letter, the Creator's Journal. And I want to read a little bit about it because I feel like this is super spot on. I've struggled with this earlier on, maybe like 2, 3 years ago. And I think this is the recipe for people to have success in actually monetizing online. So I'm gonna read a little bit about it and then we'll dive into it. All right. So it says outreach has a bad rep on social media, especially on the money X side of social media. Nobody likes outreach. Let me reframe. Nobody likes receiving outreach, getting those, hey, white boy, you need a short form video DMs. Nobody fucking likes that. And then you have the other side who doesn't like outreach because it's not the optimal way to make money. Inbound is better, fuck, cold DMs. Yeah, those people. Was me for some point in time. But then I made the realization that no method of trying to make money is bad. It's like being in a desert and dying of thirst. And then someone hands you a glass of tap water and you go, I'm not drinking that. The fluoride will kill me. So, Aaron, to not read the whole thing, when was that first time you had this realization that, no one was coming to save you and the business wasn't just going to flow magically in the beginning?
I think it was when I first ever started doing something online, bro. Back when X was Twitter. And I remember I didn't know anything about offers. Like my offer or my means of making money was just selling courses and stuff. And I was like, this will do, I'm making decent money from it. So I remember I bought Danko's web design course. And it was going well. I was getting a few clients and stuff. I was like, oh, this is perfect, bro. People are just coming to me easy. Like, I don't know what people are saying, like business is hard and stuff. But anyway, it got to a point then where people stopped coming to me. Like, maybe am I doing something wrong? And I realized then that obviously you need to go nuts on outreach, and there's a bunch of different ways to get clients. And then it got to a point where I was like, yeah, okay, it's not as easy as it seems. And truly nobody's come to save you, because there I was after reading this course. I was like, yeah, I've got this. And then I got stuck and I was like, now what do I do? And it's the thing with business is like, there's a lot of pros and cons with business, but I think the main two, the biggest pro is nobody tells you what to do. Nobody tells you when to wake up. Nobody tells you when to clock in, stay after hours. But then the biggest con is also nobody tells you what to do. Like if you ever get stuck, nobody tells you how to fix it. If you don't know what to do next, nobody says, okay, this is all you need to do to fix this. So I think when people say nobody's coming to save you, it really is true. Like you can go out and you can ask people, bro, what should I do? But ultimately it's up to you to decide. There's no manager above you. There's no boss above you to say, okay, I'll handle this for you. It's just purely you, bro. And if you don't act upon whatever information you receive, if you don't take that and put it into action, then it's game over.
That last piece of no one coming to save you resonates. Like, generally, working W2 versus trying to monetize on your own, it's really just that struggle of like, all right, how do I spend my time most effectively? And tying it back to your story, right? You said you started with a Dan Co web design course. If you guys don't know who Dan Co is, he's very big on X. What were you doing before you started that web design course?
So it's a long story. So I'll save a long story short. So pretty much I was in university, no business or anything. I'd done a few like drop shipping type things before. Nothing special. Never really went nuts with it. And then COVID hit, and I had to go from my university dorm back home. And then obviously lockdown happened in the UK. So I was like, right, I've got to stay with my parents. I can't go out drinking with the boys. I can't go partying or stuff like that, the usual stuff. So I was like, okay, got some time on my hands. Let's try and do something. And I remember when I was in university, I would get drunk and I would scroll Twitter and I would like bookmark certain tweets. So it was like how to make money selling ebooks, or like how to do print on demand type stuff, all the old side hustles. So I was like, oh, I've got all these bookmarks. Let me try and see if I can do something with them. So my first ever gig on Twitter was actually selling growth courses. I remember I had like 240 followers, and I was like, oh, I'm going to sell a growth course now, because that was like the thing to do back then. So I made, bro, I don't know, like $30, $40 probably. And obviously where it was being sold on Gumroad, when you're a new creator on Gumroad, they hold your money until they like do certain checks. So I still technically made nothing. So I was like, oh, I want to do something like service based. I want to build something for someone or do something. And I remember Dan Coe, yeah, maybe had like 15K followers back then. So I messaged him because I seen his web design course. Like, bro, what, is this course any good? Like, can I pick it up and just use it straight away? And he was like, yeah, yeah. So we had some back and forth. And I was like, okay. So I think I had like $20 left, or whatever, the equivalent of $20 is in pounds in my bank account. So I was like, I'm gonna buy it. So I bought it. That was the last money in my account. So I bought the course. And then I just went nuts with it, bro. And I learned how to make websites. And that was my first ever gig, like actual service business on Twitter. And to be honest, it's kind of the course that allowed me to evolve into whatever I do today.
So to take the time machine back, you're in uni, COVID happened, you had to go back home, couldn't drink with the boys, you're scrolling on Twitter, you find Dan Coe's course, but at this very moment, how is your Twitter account looking like? Like, do you have a system in place to, I guess, generate leads, or are you just like DMing a ton of people a day? Like, walk me through exactly how you were able to get your first clients there.
Bro, I don't even think I knew what a lead was back then. I was so like narrow minded in business. I didn't know what an offer was. I thought my offer pretty much was like, I make websites. So I started when I like first ever jumped on it. I had an old account, but it was like an old YouTube gaming account. So I had like 10 followers or something. So I was like, oh, I'll just use this. Messaged some guy and I was like, bro, you're doing pretty much what I want to do. How do I do it? How do I grow an account? How do I get followers, make money from it? So he told me, he was basically just said, leave it in the comments, write some good posts and do that every day. So I was like, so cool, bet. So I did that and it was way easier to grow back then on Twitter because you literally, bro, you just post something and people will be like, oh, this is good and follow you. Leave a few comments and you just blow up. So I did that for a little bit. I think it took about a month to hit like 250 followers or something after like just grinding like 24 hours a day. And I was like, okay, I think it's time to release a course because I just wanted money, bro. I didn't really care about audiences. I didn't know about niches or offers or anything like that. So I was like, right, I'm going to release a course. And it did okay. It was basically, I bought a course, like a growth course, and I was like, right, I'm going to take this, apply my own spin on it, and then just re-release it as mine. And yeah, it did as well as you'd expect it to do for a newbie on X. But yeah, honestly, with the web design thing, when I picked that up, my offer was literally I make websites. I didn't know about targeting people or niching down or offer or propositions, deliverables, etc., etc. It was literally just I make websites. And I think the only way I got clients was because I was posting about it. Or I was just documenting my journey, like, oh, I just bought this web design course, or this new website I built, or I built my own website. I remember I posted that. And one day this guy DM'd me, he was like, oh, bro, can I, I seen you make landing pages and stuff on websites. Can you do me one? Yes. And it was like $200 he paid me or something, just a simple landing page. So I was like, okay, and then that was the point where I was like, okay, I can do this now properly. But honestly, bro, yeah, it took me so long to get into the whole niching down and audiences and content creation, stuff like that, before I was, before that I was just literally, I'll make websites. I don't care who it is, don't care who it's for. As long as the website looks cool, then I'll do it for anyone.
Got it. And to that point, right? Like you mentioned a couple things here, but one in particular, talked about like documenting the journey. And I was reading your email letters, and you talk about like the importance of that. Of like people want to see like how you've done it or implemented it in your own life. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the main thing that I say on this topic is everyone has seen the same advice over and over again. Like, oh, here's how to get to 10K followers. Here's how to make your first 500 online. Everyone has posted a tweet like that on every single platform, every email. Every one of them mothers done it at least a million times, which is fine. If you want to do it, that's cool. But, the value is there. But when people post that, they don't understand that it's so saturated in terms of like content. Like people will scroll past that and be like, oh, it's just another one of those. But in terms of actually building up like authority and the personal side of a personal brand, you can still tweet things like that. You can still post things like how to make 10K, but put yourself into it. So implement yourself into the value content. And then it goes from personal content or value content, just turns into authority content because it's still the simple how to, but instead of directly saying, step one, step two, it goes from how to do this to here's how I did this. And the value or the steps just literally become what you did. to do those certain things or to get that outcome. So instead of here's how to make 10K a month, step one, step two, step three, it turns into this is everything I did to make my first 10K. I did this first, then I did this. So it's the same sort of framework. It's just you're implementing yourself and your stories, and that sticks much better than here's how to do this because people have seen, how here's how to do this a million times, but they've never seen how you've personally done it. And it works so well because they can relate. And like, oh, this guy was just normal like me. He was working a 9 to 5. He was in school or something. So why can't I do this?
Heard. So you talk about the saturation, I think is a very good point. And especially now I feel like X platform, it's a very like TikTokified where the For You page kind of floods your feed. And you mentioned like building authority through actually showing how you implement it in your own life. To backtrack a little bit though, while you're building authority in your web design page, just curious, like backstory, are you were you working like a regular W-2 9 to 5 job while you were building this web design business? Or like what was happening at that time in your life?
No, I was purely in university, bro. I was literally just in school
Oh,
and
okay.
I got sick of being in school because I was like, I don't want a job for the rest of my life. I've only ever had one job and it was working in retail and I hated it. I was like, oh, I've got to, I was working such long hours and working all these days I was missing like parties and events and stuff just to make some money. And then the money I was getting at the end of it was just shit. So I was like, yeah, I'm never getting a job again. So I would literally I wouldn't even go to class, bro. In university, I would just skip class if I wanted to and then just work on the business. Or even in class, I'd just be sending DMs and stuff. So never had a job, but yeah, I was in university. So I guess it's like the same like hours and stuff. But it worked out. I finished university. I didn't really want to, but I know my grandparents were like, "Oh, you need to finish it," because traditional. And I was in my last year, and I was like, it was getting to a point where the client work was getting a lot, and then the university work was getting a lot. So I was like, I've got to pick. But I kind of just powered through, and did both, finished university, graduated, but I've never used my degree ever. That was like 4 years ago.
Gotcha. And in uni, like what type of retail job? Talk to me a little bit about your experience. I'm just curious. Like what was it that you were doing? How was that?
It was just a clothes store, bro. It was nothing special. I think I had it when I was 17 and then I had it when I was 18 as well in uni. But I had to quit it, bro. It was nothing special. It was just for a bit of money, to be honest, bro. Like to get, the experience. Everyone needs their first job. So I went in, I did the interview and they were like, yeah, yeah, that's cool. I only got it because my father knew the manager and he was like, you know, any jobs going. And they were like, yeah, yeah. So I did the interview. I got the job. Hated it. They paid awful because I was 17, so the minimum wage was like even lower because I wasn't 18. So I did that for a year. And then I remember I went to New York with my parents for my 18th birthday. And the month before, I'd worked I must have worked like 100 plus hours, bro. And I made something like $400. And I got it. I was like, at the time, I was like, oh, I got so much money. And looking back, it was nothing for the amount of hours I worked and the amount of stress and stuff because I was in college or high school at the time as well. And it was just awful. But then I turned 18, still had the job. And then I remember being in university and I don't know if it's a thing in America, but we've got freshers, which is like the first week or two of university where everyone goes to the clubs and stuff and all these events and all are on and stuff. And I remember being in work at the time, people were going out, and I was like, I fucking hate this job, bro. I post on Snapchat, like, I can't wait to quit. So it was literally just a job to make some cash, but it taught me a valuable lesson because I was the youngest there as well. And I would always get made to do all the hard stuff. And, I get like talked down upon because I was the youngest. So I was like, yeah, no problem. So it just I'm thankful because it made me never want a job again. But at the same time, it just wasted a lot of time, bro.
Yeah, I have a similar experience in college. Like my last year, I was working a retail job as well, and I was making like $9 an hour. And I just remember it was like 10, 15 hours. It wasn't anything crazy. And my first paycheck was $125. I'll never forget. And I was like, yo, this is fucking brutal. I was driving 40 minutes to go there back and forth, and it just really wasn't it. To go back into your story though, like you talked about you were in university, you're skipping classes. So at this point, were you just primarily focused on growing your Twitter audience at the time? Like that was your one main goal, and then doing the dang course.
Yeah, so the goal was to I knew how to make money. Like I had the gist of how to make money. So it was through selling my courses and then I was gonna just try and build the web design up into an agency. And then university was literally just doing the bare minimum to get by because
Yeah,
ultimately in my head I knew I wanted to go down the business route and like the university was a fallback option. But yeah, it was literally just spend all the time I can on X and the business. And then, because obviously it was locked down, we had Zoom classes and stuff. So I would put it on Zoom, go to the class, just mute it, and just continue working on X as it was in the background. And that's
yeah.
literally how my entire 2020, 2021 went.
Bro, it's pretty fucking crazy because I mean, I'm a bit older than you, so I never really had that perspective. But like when you were in university and COVID was happening, like you couldn't do the regular things of like hanging out and drinking with your friends, whatever. Do you feel like this benefited you to your favor in terms of like business because you just had nothing else to do but just lock in?
Yeah, pretty much, bro. I think
Yeah, yeah.
if lockdown never happened, bro, I would never have started the business. I think I would have done something in business, but I would never have started X. I would never have gone into X or done the businesses I did. That's why I always say to my fiance, bro, I was like, I'm so in a nice way, like an optimistic version. I'm so glad lockdown happened because I think I would never have done what I'm doing right now if I was just still in university. It'd probably just been a 9 to 5, bro, which is crazy to think about. But I
100%,
think
yeah.
I remember tweeting about it when it got lifted. I was like, unpopular opinion, lockdown benefited so many people because I came out a completely different person, new mindset, bro. I was making decent money and stuff, but it was just like the lessons and stuff. It was kind of like a the universe's way. This I like to think about it. The universe's way of telling me to stop because it's going on like a destructive path and like trying to reel me in a bit so I could focus on what matters. So yeah, it was a blessing in disguise for me, bro.
And you said something important too, like you said, like the mindset shifted before and after. Like, what exactly was it? Like, who were you before you locked in on Twitter, like before COVID? Like, what path were
Honestly,
you headed? Do you think? Yeah.
I was I was about how old was I when lockdown happened? I think I was 20. I just turned 20
Hmm.
because it was March 2020 in the UK. I think lockdown happened. My birthday's in January. I just turned 20. But honestly, bro, in the nicest way possible, I was a dick. Like I would
Hmm.
just my day consisted of waking up, drinking, going to the clubs, trying to get with girls, and then going to sleep and just doing it all over again. I'd piss money down the drain. And I
Hmm.
remember I went to uni, bro, with nine grand from savings because I never went out as a kid. I never went, the usual stuff like kids do.
Hmm.
I'd never spend money. I was always very frugal and stuff. So I'd save money and I'd only ever buy things I really, really wanted, like a laptop or an Xbox or something. So I went to university with 9 grand. I think it was within the first 2 months of uni, I'd spent all of it and I had to get an overdraft because I spent so much on like takeaways, fast food, drinks, clubs. I was
Hmm.
spending 300 a night, bro, the first few weeks of uni just on like booze and tickets and stuff to clubs. But honestly, first year of university before lockdown, just moron, bro. Idiotic. Stupid behaviors. I know everyone goes through, when you're young and dumb and stuff, but honestly, looking back, I wish I could just slap myself because of the stuff I did. But then after, bro, I can't say I was this perfect angel after university, but no, after lockdown rather than university. Can't say I was this perfect angelic creature, but the mindset definitely changed. I think I was just a bit smarter with like in terms of the future. And I was like, okay, I still went out and got drunk. I was still a moron, but I was a moron with more of a mission then because I actually had something to work towards.
Yeah, no. I mean, I feel like, bro, honestly, every 20-year-old, majority of them are, doing the same things. Like you're just young, you have a little bit more freedom after high school. You want to be a little bit more reckless. So in your own story, right? You said you had $9,000 in savings, you spent it all. And through reading on X and stuff, there's like a line where you said you went from like 2K in debt to making six figures. I see the 2K in debt piece. I see the web design piece. Talk to me a little bit how you went from that all the way to making six figures on the internet.
So the negative 2K came just before lockdown. So I had the 9 grand, I burned through the 9 grand, and then I was like, right, I've got no money. I need to get an overdraft. So I got an overdraft, and it was, bro, it was just constantly in the negatives because I didn't have a job either. I was just relying on student loans to get me through. So when lockdown happened, I was like, right, I got to lock in. I did the courses, I was doing the web design stuff. And then I remember I was making some good money on Gumroad with the courses. And it got to a point where I was like, right, I'm going to clear my overdraft. I remember sat with my mother on my banking app and I was like, right, I'm going to clear it. And it hurt because I was like spending the money and I didn't have anything to show for it. It just went back to zero instead of the negative. I was like, no, I'm going to do it. So I cleared my overdraft and then I got rid of it. And my parents were like, "Oh, we're so proud, for clearing and stuff like that." I was like, "Yeah, that's cool." So that was like step one. I was like, "Right, I'm gonna do this." So I continued with web design. Web design, I made decent money. I probably could have made way more back then if I like locked in and I understood. If I could go back then, knowing what I know now, I would have made a mill, bro, easy. Knowing what I know now and like productization and stuff like that. The main money I was making, web design was kind of like an entry point into business. What did I do after web design? I think I did coaching, I think. Yeah, I was doing coaching. So I was doing like coaching for people on X, whether it be like one-on-one coaching or group coaching or something, basically to show them how to do pretty much what I did. Like start from zero, start making money, grow, stuff like that. That did like 30, 40K. So it was okay, but I just hated it, bro. I hate calls. Literally my entire day was centered around waiting on the call. And then people would be like, "Oh, bro, I can't do it. Can we do it like push it back an hour?" And I was like, "Oh, I just hated it, bro." So I was like, right, I'm not doing that anymore. Then I switched. It got to a point where I was kind of fuzzy. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. My audience is kind of mixed because I've gone from selling courses to web design to coaching. And like, I don't know what to do. So I bought into this like mentorship type thing, like program. I was like, right, this is my situation. I know what I'm doing. I just don't know how to do it. And they were like, bro, just do ghostwriting. And the guy who told me to do ghostwriting, I was already writing tweets for his clients because he was doing ghostwriting and then he would just send me a bunch of tweets and I'd be like, okay. And I'd write them and he'd pay me. Like, why don't you just do ghostwriting? I was like, okay, cool. So I did ghostwriting. Ghostwriting is where I made the most amount of money. It was over 100K easy. I think the biggest client I got was this guy from LA and just DM'd me and he was like, oh, bro, I saw your tweet about someone like, wow, there was something about like competence content where he's like, I need a ghostwriter. I was like, okay, cool. Didn't think anything of it, but it was Sunday. I was eating dinner with my family and stuff, and he just DM'd me. And then he called me on Telegram. I was like, fuck's this guy on my Telegram? So I answered. I was like, okay, I'll answer. For some reason, I answered. And he's like, yeah, bro, so what's your offer? And it was something like, I'll get you 10K, the original ghostwriter offer. I'll get you 10K followers. I'll make you like X amount of money. And he said, okay, how much today? And it was like 4K a month for 3 months. He was like, okay, send me an invoice for like 12 grand. Like, what the fuck? So I sent him and he paid it within like 10 seconds. I was like, I just averaged 12K on a Sunday, bro.
Yeah.
So ghostwriting definitely made me the most amount of money. But again, I do this thing, bro, where I'll make an offer, I'll do really good with it, and then I can't seem to scale it, so I'll get bored and then switch.
Mhm.
I had a really bad habit of doing that. So it got to a point where I was like, oh, I'm getting bored of ghostwriting now. I made a lot of money from it. So I switched then into funnel design, which is basically when I was doing web design, I would make the websites, but then just add separate pages like landing pages, upsells and stuff. Again, did really well with that. And then me and my ex business partner, say ex as if we left on bad terms, we just stopped working together. Wiz of Ecom. I messaged him one day and I was like, bro, can I pay you for your services? He's like, yeah. I was like, I just need help, scaling. And he's like, oh, can I pay you for your services as well? Because I need help with this. I was like, yeah, of course. Kind of just switched. And then we were like, I messaged him one day. I was like, bro, why don't we just collab and and do a product or like an offer together? And he was like, yeah. So we released this program called the Presence Pillars. And it was basically how to take your social media presence from like an unknown account to like this massive authority. And the main selling point was inbound leads would come to you instead of you having to do outreach and stuff. It was really good. It sold really well. We did, I think it was multiple six figures, I think we did. And then obviously that burned out because we were teaching the ways of, how we sold. So obviously people were like catching on and then we saturated it ourselves. So we really milked the market out of it. And then it just came to a point where we were like, yeah, we need to stop this now. Sales were going down and stuff. So I continued with funnel design. And then I just got tired of it, bro. Again, same as the web design thing. I was just like, just not having fun. And I never wanted it to turn into that. I never wanted to be like, oh, I've got to do work now. I really enjoy business. So I didn't want to. And then I transitioned into AI. And that's what I've been doing since, bro. So I've just been implementing AI systems. I was like, I made the executive choice one night in bed. I was like, I'm doing AI. That's where the future's going. I'm doing AI. And yeah, that's pretty much been my entire monetary journey, bro. So it's been fun. It's been fucking roller coaster.
Uh,
But that's the thing in full.
That's dope, man. There's a lot of things to unpack here that I wrote down, and I guess like the first piece, which I really resonated, was like the coaching piece. How at one point you absolutely hated it. I experienced the same thing last year where I was teaching personal finance and doing boot camps for this on one to one basis. And it just got to a point where I just got burned out from doing it. I felt like the juice wasn't worth the squeeze as well, but to that point of just like I felt absolutely cooked mentally, so I had to move on, and then so I started putting more effort on the podcast. So you talked about from the web design, you got into ghostwriting. You're having breakfast with your family. Someone sends you 12K. In terms of the ghostwriting, does that work now in 2026 with Claude and all these different things, or not necessarily?
It can work. Like I've got a client right now who is a ghostwriter who I'm building an AI system for to basically do his job for him. I'm not going to name his name. But the thing with ghostwriting is it got saturated very quickly because I think you didn't need any proof to do what you were doing. Like, with web design or something like that. If you were trying to
Mhm.
sell websites, someone would say, oh, have you got any websites to show me? And then if you don't, they're like, well, why am I working with you? Same with like copywriting. Or have you got any emails you can show me that converted really well? And if you can't, they're going to say no. But the thing with ghostwriting, if you get a viral tweet, you say, "Oh, bro, I just got a viral tweet," and then just milk the shit out of it because I closed so many clients with this. That's like the entryway. So everyone, bro, just started doing it, and I don't want to say it got saturated in like a bad way, like nobody should ever do it, but it did get highly saturated out of all the skills because it was such a low hanging fruit. It was such an easy thing to get into. So, but it's also a good thing because, you can differentiate yourself by just being a little bit more competent than the normal person doing ghostwriting. But I think as time goes on, at the minute, ghostwriting is still good to get into because AI is at the point where it's not going to take your job in terms of ghostwriting. Now, you can't just go to Claude and say, Claude, give me 10 pieces of content unless you spend time highly training it and stuff. Like I've spent the past 2 months now training my Claude Code system to write good content and it still needs iteration just because it can't get it right. So I think the best time to do something with ghostwriting is now because you can use AI systems to your advantage. But I think it will soon, unless you do it right now and get into it and become a name in the ghostwriting industry, AI will definitely just take it because it'll become so powerful to the point where it'll just be able to scan your profile, write a bunch of tweets, and then, that's the job done.
And before we touch up on what you just said about Cloud Code and AI systems, because I know your main focus right now is that there was one piece before where you talked about like with web design, you made decent money, but knowing what you know now, you would have made an absolute killing. Like, what are some of those things that you could have implemented back then that would have made you a lot more money?
There's so many things, bro. Like when I did the web design thing, the offer was literally, I'll just make websites. I didn't even promote it that much. I was just like, oh, I make websites, and I would get the odd client come to me and say, oh, you make landing pages or websites. Let me pay you. And that was it. So I did get decent clients from it and made decent money. But I think knowing now about offers, funnels, deliverables, propositions, all that different stuff, and then getting into all the different methods of getting traffic. So not just sticking to X, scraping, especially if we had AI back then, bro, it'd be game over because it's just, it'd be such a dirty system to run, bro, for everything. So I think if, and back then as well, the thing with like X was whoever can get the most followers wins. And now it's still a thing in people's minds, but now it's much more about building authority. And I think a lot of people understand that it's better to have a low follower count with people who actually want to buy from you over a high follower account with people who don't give a shit. So I think if I could go back then with everything I know, all the knowledge and stuff, with the AI systems, with the knowledge about business and deliverables and stuff, then I would absolutely crush. It's just so easy, bro. But now everyone and their mother is doing the same stuff. There's more people uh, for competition. The AI systems are everywhere, so it's going to be really hard to stand out. Like making websites back then, you'd have to really take your time with it. You'd have to. I was hand drawing the wireframes, sending them to clients, and then I was manually. Sometimes I would program it or code it, and then the drag and drop website builders came out, so I was using that. But if there was an issue or anything, you'd have to do it manually. There was no AI systems to help you or anything like that. Now, bro, you can go to Claude and just say, Claude, make me a website, and it does it in like 5 minutes, and it's perfect. So, bro, just imagine having that system back like 5, 6 years ago, where it just builds websites for you. You'd probably be one of the best website builders in the world.
100%. I agree with that. I remember like 2018, 2019, I had a drop shipping store where I was selling bucket hats in Australia. And the website, it took me a while to do it. Like I had to make a logo on Canva and the everything, the aesthetic. And now, like literally in Canva, I could drop a PDF and be like, make a web page in 2 seconds. So definitely see that. And this piece here that you mentioned right before, right? Like you said, X or Twitter, whatever people want to call it, used to be more about like the followers gave you the sense of, I guess, authority, right? But you're saying now that that paradigm has shifted a little bit. I want to tap into a little bit what you mean by that exactly. And to give you context in my own life, when I was starting on X, maybe like a year ago, like taking it more seriously, for myself, I was like, I don't know like how to go viral. I don't know what exactly I need to tweet to actually go bananas. But I felt like if I could interact with individuals that already built authority, it gives me more social proof and credibility. So I just want to tap into what you were saying about that, about building authority on X. Like, how would you do that, and your take on that as well?
So back when I joined, there was this thing, it was called Money Twitter. It was a very small, couple thousand people in there, bro. Like the big players, it was like Rogue Wealth, it was like Hustle and Conquer, all the old names. Danco didn't even exist. So it was a very small space. Basically, it was much better back then too because of the way the algorithm was and stuff. And it was just people dropping value. Nobody cared about like engagement rates or gaining amounts of followers and stuff overnight. Uh, but the thing is, the more followers you had back then, the bigger you were deemed to be like, oh, this massive figure, like, and you would feel like ecstatic when one of those big accounts followed you. Like I remember when all the old big accounts started following me, and I was in the groups and stuff like the engagement groups. I was like, oh my god, this person just followed me, and it would be like a statue of honor. It's quite sad now looking back, but it kind of as time went on, then it started being less about how many followers that you had and more about how much value that you gave. And then that transitioned then into, all right, who's the biggest authority in their niche? And is it because they drop a ton of value, or is it just because they're big in their niche? And like, if they're big in their niche in terms of followers, then nobody really cares. So a lot of people didn't keep up with that sort of trend change. And a lot of people, myself included, were stuck in the I need more followers and like the wrong metrics pretty much. And I think success back then wasn't based on how much money you made or how many leads that you got inbound or how many deals you closed, the important metrics. It was more based on like metrics like dopamine metrics, like oh, I've got 100 followers today, or this tweet got 1,000 likes. So it's very easy trap to fall into even today. But I think a lot of people kind of didn't age with the actual trend of the authority thing, and that's why only certain people are still on X today. But I fell into the trap of it, bro. I went from posting value. I was at one point I was posting like 24 times a day. It was every single hour. I'd schedule it before I went to bed throughout the night, and I'd wake up and I would just keep going. And okay, they weren't valuable. They were on the verge of being valuable, but they were still like my own thoughts and stuff. And then it went from there, and I was like, okay, I got obsessed with the metrics, like the likes and the retweets, because I had a viral tweet. And I was like, oh, that's good, Wasn't making like good money from it at all. So I don't know what I was thinking. But I went from tweeting 24 times a day to just once a day. And if that, like I was averaging like 20K likes on one tweet, uh, which is crazy back then. But that's when the algorithm was proper just disgusting. But I remember I would wake up and I would post a tweet and I would check her at the end of the day. And if it didn't get like 10K plus likes, I'd delete it. I was like, yeah, that sucks. That's awful. My account's dead. And like looking back, bro, I'd die for like 10K. I'd die for a K likes right now, bro. But it got to a point where I was like, I don't know what it was. I was posting, I was like, it's not, it doesn't feel right anymore. I'm just posting, nobody's gonna remember it because the tweets I was posting were just platitudes. They were like the live, laugh, love type stuff, like you see on Instagram. And I
Mm.
was like, and it got into my head, and I was like, people are gonna see these tweets. Anyone can read this tweet. Like it doesn't matter if I post it or somebody else posts it. And then in my head, the adrenaline started to go. I was like, oh my God, my account's going to die. Nobody knows who I am. So I remember I was like, I need to rebrand. So I started coming back off the platitudes and started posting platitudes, but like in my own opinion, if that makes sense. So they still weren't like value or anything, but they were still platitudey, but it was like my take on the platitudes. It's like, yes, working. So, people still getting likes and people commenting and stuff. And I was like, right, I'm going to start increasing the amount of tweets. And then it started working. I was like, right, I need to rebrand now while it's hot. So I rebranded and I was like, right, I'm going to commit now to value content only. Uh, I'll post the only type of like engagement post will be my own opinions and takes. And I'll do that. And I did it. And I was like, yeah, that was the move. And then I realized then about authority and stuff. And I was like, right, people are understanding now that if you post this about this topic, then people will relate that topic to you. And then obviously, and I realized like, okay, you can manipulate that in a way. So if you keep talking about, web design, for example, people associate you with web design. And then when someone says, oh, who's a good web designer? They immediately think, oh, this person. So I used that to my advantage with pretty much every offer that I did. That's what I'm doing right now with the AI thing as well. But it did come with a trade-off, and I think that trade-off is good in terms of like the finances and the physical outcomes of it. But if you're in that trap of trying to get bad dopamine from it, or dopamine in any form from the likes and the retweets, it really does screw with you because you're like, oh my God, this tweet is not doing very well. Well, it is doing well. It's just not doing as well as a platitude. But then you've got to understand, platitudes do well for certain reasons that's not beneficial at all, unless you're just trying to get engagement. But, personal takes on value tweets and, authority content doesn't do as well as platitudes, but it's so many more benefits. There is. It's really weird, bro. It's like a complete mind boggle, but it is the necessary thing to do. And I'm very glad I did it.
You mentioned something important about like dopamine metrics, and this literally happened to me like 3 days ago on X. I had an article that for myself I had 97,000 impressions, and for me that's like significantly higher than anything I've ever done. And I just remember the whole day getting this sense of like dopamine, and then when the day was over, I'm like, well, I'm still in the same place. I didn't really make money from that post. So like I definitely hear you on that piece of trying to figure out like what are those things that matter. So you talk about like you were utilizing the wrong metrics. You've gone past that phase. You now like you just focus on strictly posting about like things that are valuable. What are some metrics that are the ones that people need to focus? If there's like one or two or three, and I'll give you one before you start. I spoke to this founder of a bikini company in America, the fastest growing bikini business. And he told me, look, the only thing that matters is IPA, so income producing activities. So the only thing that matters is putting points on the board, and those points are dollars in. So I'm curious if you have any others or if you relate to that one as well.
Yeah, it's pretty much a summary. Mine's just more like broken down. So I think it's important because when I say to a lot of people, oh, you're focusing on the wrong metrics, they immediately go, okay, likes, they don't matter no more. Followers don't matter. It's not that they don't matter anymore. It's just they don't matter as much as people think. When I say likes, they're not the be all end all. I'm not saying just forget about the likes because they are an important indicator as to see if your content's performing and people are liking your content. But it gets to an extent where you start over obsessing over it. Like, oh my God, this didn't do as well. Glance at it, like, oh, that piece of content did well, analyze why it did well, or even just say to Claude, here's my week of content. analyze which posts did well, and then create some new posts for this week or new angles and stuff. So obviously there are activities that you should monitor, but just don't go to the extremes. But in terms of actual numerical things that you should be looking at and concerning yourself with, things like, I think the most important thing, especially on social media, is inbound leads. Because if you're posting and you're getting likes and stuff, but nobody's coming to you, you're not making any money, then you're just wasting your time. And it's something I did for the longest. I would post even before the revenue sharing feature. I would get millions of impressions, like 100 mil a month or something. It was crazy numbers. I was making no money from it. I was making money from like selling the odd course here or there, or people like, oh, bro, can you do like a sponsorship tweet? And I'd be like, yeah, of course. That's where I was making money from. But in terms of like services, I wouldn't get anyone messaging me about my services or if I could actually give them value and stuff. So I think the most important metric on social media in a business standpoint is inbound leads. How many people are messaging you? How many people are actually booking a call with you? How many people want you and want to give you money? And then you've got the little things then, like calls booked, or how many people are actually like engaging with your conversation, not just, messaging you once and then leaving. But I think again, it goes back to the point that you mentioned. The most important number is how much money you're making. Because if you're doing it for nothing, or no, you're making like $0, what is the point?
100%. And to that piece, right? Like you talked about like the numerical things, inbound leads is something that's very important. For someone though that, let's say, in their shoes, their X account's fairly small and they don't have inbound leads, like how does one do this? Because I feel like logically most people think, oh, the reason I don't have inbound leads is because I don't have enough followers or likes and engagement. And then people go in that rat race of chasing the likes and dopamine. So like what is the right approach to do it in a way that you're not, addicted to the dopamine and actually getting inbound?
Yeah, I'm dropping an email on this exact topic tonight.
Let's go.
And I think a lot of people will pick a side, like, oh, outbound's better, and cold DMs and cold emails better. And then the other side are like, no, that's shit. Inbound's better, post content. And I was on both sides. And that's why the whole thing with my business partner with the presence pillars, we literally, the way we sold it was we demonized cold outreach and cold emails. And we were like, the best way to make money. I still stand by it, but maybe less demonization of the cold outreach. But the best way to make money is to have people come to you, which, it is pretty much. You sit there, you write content and you do client work all day, and then people come to you. It's just such an easy way. You haven't got to do anything with openers on DMs. You haven't got to do follow ups. People just come to you. But I think what a lot of people do is they'll demonize one and then pick another one. It's like, oh, cold outreach sucks. I'm just going to focus on inbound. Whereas the best thing you can do is focus on both. Like, it's just like the thing that I wrote about in the desert in the email. Like if you're in the desert, you're thirsty as fuck, and someone says, "Oh, glass tap water," I'm not gonna say, "No, I don't want that." It still does the same job. It still hydrates you, just as like the bottle of distilled mountain water from the Himalayas. It still hydrates you at the end. Just got different benefits. So cold outreach is better than getting inbound leads because of X, Y, and Z. But inbound is better than cold outreach. They both do the same thing, and the job is to make you money. And the best thing that one can do is literally just maximize all efforts of lead gen. So I think if you're just starting, obviously nobody's going to come to you. Nobody knows who you are. You're going to be tweeting at a brick wall. Best thing you can do is do some free work, whether it be for yourself, whether it be for someone in your circle, friend, family, do some free work or something just to get experience and to get some form of social proof that you can post, and then go nuts with outbound. Learn your ICP, learn your deliverables, learn your offer, and then find people who you can genuinely help. Show them what you've done in terms of like the free work that you just did, and then use that as a gateway. And as soon as you get that first client, that's it. It becomes so much easier than to step into inbound because you can just post about, I helped this client go from this to this, or this is a website I made for this client, etc. And then inbound is literally as simple as proving you're good at what you do. So proving that you can help clients, proving that people are coming to you for help. And as soon as you can prove that and you're nailing outbound as well, it's just a lead gen like masterpiece. Like people are coming to you, you're going to people, and then you expand it onto different traffic sources like LinkedIn, Insta, threads, cold email, even cold calling, bro. Like cold calling is making its rounds now because you can get AI agents to basically just talk for you. So it's all about, you can demonize outreach as much as you want, but it is the starting point. Nobody's ever got their first client as an inbound. Like I say that, that's literally what I did, but that was a one off. But nobody's ever gone into X, logged in and been like, right, I want to make money. And then someone's gone, oh, bro, can you make me this or something like that? So outreach, and then that's the key to inbound, and then you maximize both.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. I feel like a lot of times people think it's binary, like you pick one or the other. For myself, I've had to purely focus on outbound for now. But obviously down the line, I would love to have a mix of both because it's just draining to the consistency of it. But that to that point too, right? Like you mentioned, and I think we could finish off on this last one here. There was, I think it was on one of your email letters where you talk about like the volume needed to actually be where you're at right now in the terms of like you DM X amount of people, you post X amount of times. Walk me through a little bit about the reps you actually do on a day to day because your whole thing is now you're focused on AI, but there's obviously a lot of manual work that goes into everything you do. So I don't know, just ending off on that note.
Yeah. So at the moment, my day literally consists of I'll wake up, I'll write my newsletter straight away, and then I'll get straight into Claude Code, do all like the main back end systems for myself. So whether it be like lead scraping, DM openers and stuff. And then the rest of the day is either back and forth with Claude Code, sending DMs or just client work. But I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to send, this is a harsh reality that I had as well, even with the like size and who I am on X without sounding like I'm going to kiss my own ass. But I sent with my new offer, my AI offer, I was like, right, I'm going to send 10 DMs now just to test the like the opener, see if it hits. Probably got like 5 responses. Nobody responded, bro. Even like in my network, nobody responded. I was like, oh, kind of like hits you a bit because you realize that making money, bro, is not as easy as people say, even when you're operating at different levels and stuff. So I was like, right, okay, that didn't work. But then you've got to get into the did it work because, or did it not work because the opener sucked, or did it not work because the offer sucked, or did they just have a bad day and they don't want to respond? So there's so many different things that you've got to like run and just test pretty much, which is what I'm doing now. Like I'm doing my Claude Code system runs through every DM I send, and then it just basically feeds me back like, oh, maybe you could do this and stuff like that. It's a big work in progress. But in terms of like the reps of sending, you just got to do it, bro. You just got to send. I wouldn't even put a number on it because if you say, right, I'm going to send 200 DMs today, nobody answers. You're like, oh, that's, kind of heartbreaking. Then tomorrow you're like, well, I'm going to send another 200. Nobody answers. You're like, oh, maybe 300's better. Keep sending until someone answers. And then when someone answers, or like even if they say no, ask them why. But that goes for everything, whether it be DMs, whether it be emails, whether it be content. It literally just, it's just reps. It's just reps for everything. And then testing. I think one of my tweets, my favorite tweets that I've ever posted is do something, fuck it up, and then learn how to do it better. And that goes for every single thing. It's just about putting the numbers in. But yeah, I'm sending a lot of DMs. Some I'll even admit right now, bro, not every DM of mine gets answers at all. I know people will be like, oh, these big accounts got it so easy, they could just make money like that. It's not like that at all. Very hard because people will ignore you. People don't give a shit.
I love that. Yeah, I think people would make the assumption that whoever you DM would respond to you if they're following you or some sorts. So, Aaron, that was an absolute banger of a masterclass. Talk to me a little bit about your current company. Where can people find you? Feel free to plug yourself in.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, so pretty much what I'm doing now, it kind of ties into the story a bit, is I'm basically implementing AI systems for agency owners. So if you're an agency owner and your main bottleneck is having to do the same thing all the time, or you're wasting time on low leverage tasks, I'll come in, build AI systems for you, and then the AI systems handle all the low leverage stuff so you can focus on sending sending more proposals, actual client work, all the high leverage stuff. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Only I'm on LinkedIn, but X is better. So I'm on X at the moment. I am Aaron Will, and I will be expanding soon, but one thing at a time.
Hell yeah, man. Well, Aaron, greatly appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon, man. Cheers.
Appreciate it, bro.